All right, man. Cheers.
Cheers. Wow, that is a kick in the face.
Kick in the face. Yeah, this is Kikasui. So the Kikasui is actually a very famous Japanese brand.
Yeah.
It's Karakuchi, so I thought you'd like it.
Yeah, no, it's great.
Are you getting weak, man? Are you getting weak?
Probably actually. I drink a lot less than I used to. I still I have my routine, and you can maybe call me an alcoholic for this because I think, well, I drink 2 cans of alcohol a day.
Okay.
So usually on the train ride home, I'll drink 1 or 2 cans, and then for dinner I'll have a can.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So usually if I drink 2 cans on the train, I won't drink 1 for dinner. But that's like my thing.
Yeah, right.
This is a daily thing. 2. But according to textbook definition, that's alcoholism.
Really? Why? What's the definition?
Well, because I'm consuming like 14 cans of alcohol a week.
Well, my mom normally has like a glass of white wine at the end of every day, and it's like a ritual for her.
Yeah.
So
that's kind of what it is for me. It's like I'm going home. That's kind of like my decompression, like kind of thing, right? But yeah, that's textbook alcoholism.
All right. Well, don't worry, man. We can get you into
My name is Austin, and I'm an alcoholic.
We can get you into AA Anonymous as well as AA Friends, you know. But today, though,
can we just update the fucking rules for alcoholism?
I know, right? I know.
Oh,
well, in all fairness,
this isn't the 1950s anymore.
In all fairness, there are a lot of functioning alcoholics in Japan. So,
but it's like, this isn't even close to the topic that we're talking about. We're going to be talking about ghosts. But it's just like, ghosts. I'm not an alcoholic for enjoying a beer on my train ride
listen,
home.
man, no one's judging. Well, I'm not judging you at the very least. I think, now that, we filmed an episode already, we're kind of getting on it. So today we're going to talk about your belief in ghosts.
My belief in ghosts.
You said you have experiences in Japan too.
So, well, I said I went ghost hunting in Japan.
Ghost hunting in Japan.
So let me backtrack.
Okay.
So we're gonna go back to when Austin.
I just want to ask the people first.
Sure.
If you believe in ghosts, please let us know in the comments.
Yeah, tell us your stories too. Specifically, if you have ghost stories from your past experience, I want to know about them because I freaking love ghosts. And
we chose this topic because we forgot to poll our AA friends about what topics we should do. So we sent in a poll, and we're doing ghosts now. And so if you guys are AA friends member, please look at the poll, and we're looking forward to sharing
please
topics
vote
you want.
On a topic.
On a topic, yes. A single topic. Great. Yeah, I won't go into details about that, but yes. So I think it might be good to start by establishing where our stance on ghosts is.
So okay. Well, sure, we'll establish that. Do you believe in ghosts, Arthur?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not coming to a conclusion because I don't have enough evidence for that. But from what I've seen, it's inconclusive.
Inconclusive.
Yeah.
Leaning yes or leaning no?
No.
Okay. So let me backtrack. Like I said, going back to when I was a wee lad.
A wee little lad.
I have a vivid memory. So I used to have. So this was back when we had this older house. Well, it wasn't an older house. It was that we were actually the first people to live there. But the first house that I grew up in, we had a basement garage.
Okay.
Which the entrance to that was right next to my bedroom.
Okay.
Right. And as a child, I had a bunk bed.
Yeah.
Which was kind of weird because I have siblings, but I basically grew up as an only child because there's a 10-year difference between me and my siblings.
Right. So why'd you have a bunk bed?
Yeah. Good question.
Okay. Okay.
So anyways, so I grew up in this and I always slept on the top bunk.
Yeah.
Always, every time. Always the top bunk. And I have a very vivid memory. I was probably 7 or 8 years old at the time, where I was suddenly awoken in the middle of the night to my bed shaking.
Yeah.
And it was the feeling of somebody climbing into the bottom bunk of the bed.
Okay.
And I remember being really confused about this. And so I peered over the edge of my bunk bed, and I saw what I can describe as like a glowing green person laying in the bed. They were an
glowing green
adult-sized
person. Okay.
They were an adult-sized person, and they were like, I don't know how else to put this, but like fluorescently glowing green.
Okay.
Right? Laying in my bed, and I freaked out about it, and I like jumped out of bed and like ran to my parents' room, and you know, I think my mom ended up coming into the room and was like, "No one's here. What are you doing?"
Yeah, right.
And throughout my childhood, I would have these experiences. So like the entrance to my basement garage, like I said, was literally right. Like the entrance to my room was right here. The entrance to the basement garage was right here. And there would be times at night, usually it was in the middle of the night, that there would be footsteps.
Yeah.
Walking up that staircase leading to the door. The door wouldn't open, but I would hear those and then it would stop.
Yeah. Okay.
And we had a really creaky hallway.
Yeah.
And you could tell when somebody was walking, because I got caught a couple times. Like I would try to sneak out to the kitchen.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, like my parents would be like, "What are you doing? Like, go back to bed," that kind of thing, right? So it's like you couldn't really sneak out in the hallway because every time you would step down, it'd be like, brrr, it'd be really loud and audible.
And people would hear it.
And so in the middle of the night, you would hear footsteps where it'd be like, brrr, and like it'd be really loud creaking in the hallway.
Yeah.
And so that used to actually not terrify me, but it made me really interested in what's going on.
Yeah, right.
So that's kind of like the backstory of you know, kind of like growing up as a kid. And another thing is like, so my window was at it was probably about 7 feet in the air, so about 2 meters.
Oh, your window. Okay.
My window.
I was thinking your bed was 7 feet in the air. I'm like, what is floating?
So my window in my room was about 7 feet in the air, which it wasn't at like floor level, but it was like slightly above floor level.
Yeah.
It would be at like the top of somebody's head.
Yeah.
Right. And I always used to completely cover my blinds.
Yeah.
Or sorry, completely cover my window with blinds and be really adamant about it.
Yeah.
Because I always got the feeling that someone was watching me.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, that's my backstory growing up, right? So, reaching adulthood, there wasn't like a lot of like ghost, like media, right? Of course, there'd be like horror stories, and there would be like, you know, like blogs you could read about something, but I mean, anybody can write a blog about something, right? But I remember the very first time that I got really interested with ghosts. Did you ever see them? I don't know. You're probably not a big horror movie guy. Yeah, I love horror movies.
I can't watch horror movies.
But do you know about the movie Paranormal Activity? It was a really big...
I saw ads for it. I don't have the heart to watch that, man.
So it's a really big media sensation. Yeah. And I want to say it came out 2008 or 2009, something like that. Yeah. I remember because I had just joined the military, and I got out of boot camp and I was like in training at that time. And that movie came out and I like went and saw it, and I was like, this is exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's super scary, man. I can't do that.
I love scary stuff. But yeah, so I remember this movie came out, and I'm going to spoil it, but you know what? The movie's almost 20 years old at this point, so it's like whatever. So basically, this house gets like inhabited by a demon. Yeah. Right? But like the movie is like, do you know the term found footage?
Yeah, right. Found footage, like Blair Witch Project.
Yeah. So it's kind of like it's a found footage film. So the entire movie is shot through like basically a home movie camera.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like the idea of found footage is the directors didn't film this. They found the video camera in the woods. Yeah. And they're showing you what it is.
Which is just like, it's so funny when because there was a huge found footage video craze. Yeah. Back in, I want to say like the early 2000s. It started with the Blair Witch Project. Another famous one was Cloverfield.
Yeah, Cloverfield.
You ever see that one?
Yeah.
And then a Paranormal Activity was another like found footage film. And so people were obsessed with this kind of media because there was this hype around the media where there's like, oh, is it real?
Yeah,
it's like, of course, it's a freaking Hollywood movie. Of course it's not real.
I want to interject something though, because it's interesting you talk about the found footage because in the late 1800s, horror novels were written in a kind of a found footage format where it was journal entries. So I remember reading Bram Stoker's Dracula, the original, and it's all just journal entries about what happened. And it's like, oh, you're reading it from the perspective of this is how they're processing the thing. So it's there's something about that format that's really engrossing, you know?
Yeah, no, it's I think engrossing is a really good term because of that format. It's so easy to like suspend your disbelief.
Yeah, right.
It's like it's just easy for your mind to just kind of slip into the main character.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this movie came out, and at least the first one, I feel like after the first one came out, everyone was kind of like, oh,
Paranormal
whatever.
Activity?
Yeah. After the first one came out, everyone was kind of like, oh, these are just kind of cheesy. It's like Fast and the Furious at this point, right? Or Wild Speed in Japan.
Wild Speed. Why do those speed though? Can you believe they have 10?
Dude, it's insane. Yeah. I watched them every single one with my sister. Carrie. You didn't meet Carrie.
I watched 1, 2 in Tokyo Drift, and that was it.
Religiously, man, we watched those.
Really?
And it's just stupid action.
Yeah,
but it's fun. It's great. I love it. But anyways, so they kind of turned into like cheesy movies after the first one, but the first one was a masterpiece. And the reason why it was a masterpiece was because I feel like the directors looked at real ghost videos, right? And when you look at real ghost videos, I'm talking about the ones that like are claimed to be not.
So people say, oh, I caught a ghost on camera. Look at this. Yeah,
those ones, right? So in the video, there's no boo moment, right? You never see the demon.
Yeah.
It's this invisible figure, and it interacts with things that, to be fair, the movie will give this like kind of low humming sound when some bad thing or when an interaction is happening in the house. But you still kind of need to pay attention to see what's happening.
Yeah.
Right? So like it'll show you a screenshot of a kitchen.
Yeah.
Right? And the kitchen will suddenly have that like low humming sound.
Yeah.
And then like a door will open.
Yeah.
Right? And for me at that time, I was like, this is it.
Yeah.
This is what I want to see. Right? And so I saw this movie and I got really, really interested into ghost hunting.
Yeah.
Right? And so kind of like life happened at this time, and I kind of put that hobby aside for about 10 years.
Oh, 10 years. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, I went through the military and went through college, and I got distracted. Anyways, college ends, and actually I come over here in Japan.
Okay.
And Japan has like a really, really deep history with horror.
Yeah.
So
some of the best horror movies are Japanese.
Oh my God. Completely. Like if you talk to a person in Western culture about horror movies, I mean, honestly, we kind of just make the topic of this video horror movies, or just horror in general. But if you talk to a person, it's like, what are their favorite horror movies of recent? The Ring.
The Ring. Yeah.
Grudge.
The Grudge. Yeah.
Both of those movies are Japanese films.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. When my dad was in the 80s, and my dad watched, he said the movie that was the hardest movie for him to ever watch in his life was Audition.
Oh, I heard about that. I've never seen it, but I've heard about it. It's a hard movie to go through.
Yeah, I would not do that. But he's like, there's something so dark and twisted in this that
it's a very grotesque film.
Yeah, right. And there's something in Japan that creates that. You know.
So there is a manga artist. Called Ito Junji.
Okay, Ito Junji. Okay.
Yeah. And maybe some of the viewers know him. I don't know. He's like the Miyazaki of horror manga.
Okay.
This guy is huge, right? And something that he does is he only does horror manga, and he's particularly known for making like really grotesque stuff. Like the Western equivalent, I would say he's like Geiger.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
You know, like from the Alien movies and stuff, like Geiger's known for having like really like almost kind of like sexual imagery.
Yeah, right.
In a lot of his stuff where it's just like really unpleasant to look at.
Yeah, but he was like the artist behind the Alien in this Alien series, you know?
Incredibly revolutionary person. And I have a ton of I love Geiger's work and I love Ito's work. So Ito has a really, really cool art style where I forget what the phobia is called, but there's a phobia of like seeing like holes.
Okay.
I want to say it's like trichophobia.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, but there's a phobia of seeing holes.
But it's like many, many, many holes that are specifically like different sizes all put together. So like an example, just so you guys can picture this. I'm sorry if you have this phobia because this is a real thing.
Yeah.
Sunflowers.
Sunflowers, yeah.
The center of sunflowers where there's just a ton of holes.
Yeah.
That is, some people find that extremely disturbing and terrifying to look at.
Yeah, or what about like denkon, like lotus root? Yeah, like you cut that open. Yeah.
Stuff like that, right? And so he's really famous for like writing that, or like extended limbs, or you know, like other grotesque stuff like that, right? So I started getting really into Japanese culture around horror.
Okay.
Because I think that Japan does something better than the West when it comes to horror, because prior to being influenced by Japanese horror, I think Western horror was like all about showing the monster and be like, boo, look at this monster, it's scary.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like all of the horror films, like you go through, like when movies first started, you know, with like Nosferatu, which, you know, that's, I guess it's not American, but it's still a Western film, right? You show the vampire, right? You go to Scream. Scream. The movie, you know, you have the woman being stabbed in the bathroom, right? It's all these like visual effects where it's like you can see what's happening, you can see who the killer or who the monster is. And it's like it progressed and progressed and progressed. But one of the things that I think Japanese horror is really good at is creating an atmosphere. Like it doesn't matter what the monster is really, but what matters is the feeling that the people have when they're in this situation. So like you take a movie, like I'm gonna bring up The Grudge, which probably, again, you probably haven't seen.
Dude, I just can't handle it. I know the premise and everything.
So The Grudge actually comes from the Japanese film called Ju-on, which means the grudge in Japanese, right? The story's roughly the same. It's very, the Japanese one is actually kind of, I actually kind of prefer the Western one to the Japanese one, because the Japanese one, it gets a little cheesy, but it has some like just beautiful moments. So the Japanese one follows like this girl who's married, but she falls in love with this American teacher. He's her English teacher. And her husband gets jealous because she writes a confession letter to him, like, I will leave my husband if you'll run away with me. And the English teacher didn't even know anything about this. Like it's this girl is just obsessed with him, right? And so her husband finds the letter and murders her their son and their cat. And the idea is like an act that's so evil of somebody murdering their entire family that's like the house is forever cursed. And it's like all the people in this family are forever cursed to be like these evil entities in here, right? Anyways, so the film, like, so there's this ghost girl who she walks really uncomfortably, like the idea is like her husband broke.
I see.
He broke her neck. Right. And so like
she walks like, that's why she walks like that.
So like when they show the ghost, it's like usually her neck's like like turned in a very unnatural way. And anyways, so they'll show her unnaturally, but like there's a very distinct characteristic that she has when like you know that she's there, and you'll hear this like
right
sound,
so
right?
even if you can't see her.
And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to like Japanese horror, where it's like they create this like atmosphere that's just filled with dread.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like you don't even need to show the monster in these films. But you just get this sense of fear from the atmosphere. And so where am I going with this? Why are we talking about horror? Well, so going back to ghost hunting, right? One of the things that really attracts me to like modern day ghost hunting is...
Can you explain what ghost hunting is?
So ghost
like Ghostbusters?
Not Ghostbusters, right? So ghost hunting is going out to an area that is believed to be inhabited by a person who is dead. Or not even a person, but an entity, right? Because there's this belief that like, ghosts exist. There's belief that demons exist. And there's belief that like, you can get really wild with these beliefs too. There's like, some people think there might be aliens or other beings or like whatever, right? But it's this idea that like there's a place that something is there. And no one knows what it is. And so people will bring out all of these different things that are believed to measure like a presence. Right. And it's been really, really interesting recently in the past 5 to 10 years because technology has developed. And there's a lot more ways to record things now. Right. Where before it was like people would just show up with a camera and just be like, do something, move a chair. Like, just do some dumb stuff like that. So people will often bring obviously a video camera. They'll bring like a laser thermometer. They'll bring recording equipment. There's these stud finders. You know what a stud finder is, right? Finder? So like if you're putting in shelves in your house, there's a thing that'll detect electromagnetic activity. So it's so you don't drill into an electrical outlet. I see. Right. And so people have used those equipment to detect electromagnetic fields in the air because it's believed that like ghosts have like use electricity as energy. I'm talking a lot. I haven't even drank any of my stuff.
No, dude, it's good. I'm soaking this all in because this is a whole new world for me.
It's so much fun. So people will carry this equipment out and they'll kind of record their stuff. And more often than not, nothing happens. Right. But it's these small little tidbits of like information or evidence that people will gather, like, like the stud finder will go off randomly when they're in the forest. So it's like there shouldn't be any electromagnetic activity in the middle of a forest. Right. But stuff like that. And so I got really into watching these videos. And while I was here in Japan, I had just gotten out of a relationship and I was kind of on a searching path, I would say. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go and do these things by myself.
Oh, cool.
And so I spent a lot of time. I would ride my bike out to these places that I thought that just looked creepy. So like a really good example is Tamagawa.
Tamagawa.
Right by Tamagawa Station, you have that bridge. And I was thinking, you know what? Like, I mean, we're probably not even allowed to say this on YouTube. We'll probably get in trouble for this. But it's like, I looked at this and I was like, you know what? Japan has a really high suicide rate. Right. And this bridge just gives me a feeling like there's been people who've taken their life on this bridge. So I'm going to go just come out here in the middle of the night and just absorb this atmosphere of this location. So there would be many times that I'm going to sound like a weirdo when I do this.
It's okay.
I would ride my bike out to the bridge right next to Tamagawa Station on the Tamagawa River. And this would be like 1 or 2 in the morning. There'd be no cars out there. I actually had the police come up to me one time and they were like checking to see if like I was feeling okay. They're like, hey man, why are you here? And I'm just like, oh, it's okay. I really like the atmosphere. I was like, Funky Skius. And he's like, okay. And so, I would just kind of get out there and it's like, I really felt uncomfortable in this area. And like, not in a sense that like I want to leave, but I was like, man, it just something feels off here. And so there's I'm gonna sound crazy.
Yeah, it's fine, man. It's fine, man. I'm excited for this.
So on these ghost hunting shows, there's an application that people will use on their phone. And the belief is, so basically how let me explain how this application works before you kind of look at it and roll your eyes like, okay, man.
Okay.
So this application will randomly determine words, right? There's an algorithm that works in it, and it randomly determines words. Okay. So when these people use this phone, they turn it into airplane mode. So like there can't be like outside sources, and a lot of the times they'll put it in like other rooms. Yeah. So they'll often not even be near it. So like the device isn't listening to like sounds. Yeah. Right. And they'll ask questions in the house, and not all the time, but more often than you would expect. There's answers that coincide with those questions that appear on this phone.
Like, can you give me an example?
So, I mean, there's tons of examples. Like one example is like they will be having a conversation. They'll be investigating a house. They'll maybe be on the first floor, and the phone will be like up on the second floor or whatever, right? And they'll be talking about the history of the house. They'll be like, yeah, so the history of the house. There was a girl that was killed by her father. And then there'll be a camera recording the phone up on the second floor, and it'll say murder.
Okay, I see.
Like kind of like stuff like that.
Oh, like that. Okay, so it's like connected. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there will be connections that are just like more direct answers too, where there's communication that can kind of be recorded. So the idea is that like entities are able to interact with electronics.
Okay.
So, if people are using a camera, like cameras will suddenly die at these locations because the batteries are being drained. Yeah. So it's the same idea where like they're able to manipulate electricity. This sounds so crazy when I explain it, dude, but they're able to manipulate electricity in these phones to dictate what words come up, right? It's kind of like a modern day Ouija board.
Yeah, right, like a Ouija board. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so did you use that app on the bridge?
So I used that app on the bridge, and I was never able to get a conversation, but there was 2 words that would come up almost every single night that I went out there, and they were cold and alone.
Cold and alone. Okay, I see.
Yeah, and so, like I said, I was never able to set up a conversation with somebody. But it was really interesting because I started thinking about that, and it's like, man, if I was feeling like if I was in that mindset, that's exactly what would be kind of going through.
Cold and alone.
That would be what would be going through my mind. Yeah. Like moments before I did that. Yeah. Like on that bridge, right?
Sure.
Like I feel alone. It's cold.
Yeah.
It's like I just feel lifeless.
Yeah. Right.
Right. And so that has always just really interested in me, and it's kind of like piqued my interest throughout the years where I really acutely follow a lot of YouTube channels. And so this has been a real big craze in Western media, specifically on YouTube. It's blown up in like the past 4 years, and Japan being Japan immediately latched onto this. And so you'll see Americans that are going like to random houses. Typically, I would say the most popular ones are like going to like the southern United States.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Where they'll enter these old houses that are from like the 1800s, and it's like they'll enter like Civil War battle areas. And it's really cool because like you usually watch the channel because you're interested in ghosts, but it's a really good way to like learn about history too. Yeah. Like it's really fascinating learning about like all the history of these small towns and everything. Yeah. But then you watch like the Japanese episodes, where like, people have started up channels here, And it's like, man, Japan goes hard because like the YouTubers over here that do these episodes are like, they'll go into these abandoned houses and something that's really crazy. I mean, I'm sure it's like this in other countries, but you just really don't see abandoned buildings that much in America. Yeah, at least where I'm from. Yeah. Like maybe, I guess if you're in like Detroit or something, that's probably a more common thing. Yeah. But I've never seen an abandoned building before. Right. But they're everywhere here. Yeah. I mean, we could probably walk outside and walk for like 10 minutes and find an abandoned building. Yeah, right. It's very common here in Japan, everywhere. Yeah. Right. And so these guys will walk out into the middle of the forest, and sure enough, there'll be like a farmhouse or something that's like obviously been abandoned for like 3 or 4 decades. Yeah. Right. And they'll do the experiments that, you know, like I'm talking about. And it's just like, man, it's so fun. It's so fun to like witness and experience. Yeah, I mean, it makes you feel like you're connected to something there, you know? Yeah. I think for me personally, right? So I'm very quiet just because I don't really have much experience with this. And that's not necessarily I'm being critical or anything like that. I think for me, you know, because I talked about how I used to be a Christian. Yeah. And since 2018, I lost my faith after really analyzing a lot of things. Yeah. And so it's made me a huge skeptic, where I realize how easy it is for my mind to play tricks on me. Yeah. And how easy it is for me to fool myself and lie to myself, and how I really want to believe something. And I will fill the void with something that makes sense, even if it is not provable. Yeah. But that got me believing a lie before. You know, and I based my life on that lie, and I realized it was a lie, and I was thinking, well, what have I done? So I am very skeptical about this stuff. Yeah. But I'm very interested in seeing like actual things that happen. And I actually, when I was younger, I used to watch those ghost hunting shows a lot, because they were really exciting. Yeah. I've just never done it myself. Yeah, it's, you know, I really think that it's not an experience that I think would be for everyone. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you're going to these really scary locations, like, you know, just even walking out onto that bridge at night alone, like especially like 1 or 2 in the morning, there's no one there. Yeah. No one is walking on the bridge. Like every once in a while you get like a police officer will like patrol the area just looking for people who are like maybe at risk. Yeah. You'll see in like the occasional taxi drive by, but it's like empty, especially at like 2 or 3 a.m. Yeah, right. These places are really unpleasant to be at. They're not places that you want to be, right? And for me, I think that's something that's so exciting about them, because I don't know. I'm addicted to that thrill. Yeah, because it is like living in a horror movie almost, like that possibility there. Yeah. You know, for me personally, the reason why I can't watch horror movies is because I have a very overactive imagination. Sure. And if I put those images in my mind, I'm not going to go to sleep, and it's going to mess me up because I can turn those, you know. So I need to guard myself from those things. Yeah. And it's the same thing about going to those places, like. Yeah. In all honesty, I try to be a tough guy. I run my own business. Yeah. But I feel like a little baby. Like I'm so sensitive to this stuff, and I don't know why, but I just can't deal with it. You don't have to. I've gone to graveyards at night before. You don't have to call yourself a baby for being scared about stuff, man. Yeah. I'm scared about stuff too. I'm terrified of spiders. Yeah. For me, this is a story that has nothing to do with ghosts, but I didn't know that huntsman spiders were in Tokyo. Did you? No. Okay. So I used to live in... What do they look like, by the way? Huntsman spiders. Do you know what they are? No, I know, but for the audience. Oh, so a huntsman spider is... So if you guys have ever played a video game and, you know, you finish the end of the level and the boss comes, and the boss is like a big thing, and it's got the big health bar. Well, so imagine the boss is a big spider. Okay. And the health bar is there. Yeah. And that's what a huntsman spider is. What color is a huntsman spider? They're like a lightish brown. Yeah. And they're about the size of a dinner plate. Yeah. They're freaking huge. Yeah. And it's like, I've seen pictures of them and I'm just like, okay, yeah, that's a big spider. But it's another thing when that thing is moving around.
Where did you see one?
In my apartment. I'll tell the story.
Okay.
I'll tell the story.
Is this, did you do the one before?
No, this was when I used to live in Nishimagome, which is in Otaku.
Yeah.
So like southeast Tokyo, or sorry, southwest Tokyo.
Yeah.
And I've seen them 3 times.
Yeah.
Right. And so the first time I was coming home super late at night, it was actually after a school drinking party.
Yeah.
Where it's like all the teachers got together and we all drank. And I was walking home and I saw this thing, like a bolt across the street. I was walking up this hill and it's just like this blur moved across the street and I thought it was a tumbleweed.
Yeah.
And then it stopped like about 10 feet in front of me. And I was like, what the hell, this tumbleweed? And I'm like walking up and I'm like, that is a spider.
Yeah.
That is a very big spider.
Man, that's terrifying.
Whoa, because the thing was fast, dude. This was a...
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm a little drunk now. This was a 2-lane street.
Yeah.
And it was just like right here now.
Yeah, right.
It was like literally less than a second across the street.
Yeah.
And so I remember seeing that and I was like, okay, well, that was horrifying.
Yeah, right.
And I'll keep moving. And the second time I saw it, I was walking to 7-Eleven probably around like midnight.
Yeah.
I was just like, I like to walk around at night. That's kind of like one of my hobbies.
Yeah.
And so I was walking to 7-Eleven. This was really close. It was like the closest convenience to my apartment at the time. And once again, I saw this blur move up the side of a house. And I was like, what the? And I stopped to look and like the spider stops like halfway up this house. And it's just like sprawled out like,
man,
dude, it was horrifying.
I believe it. I believe it, man.
Jesus Christ. And then the third time, which is the most terrifying time, was so I was in my apartment and I opened my window. I was hanging up laundry. Yeah. And I lived on the second floor of my apartment, right? And so there's this laundry rack right next to my the entrance of my house. Yeah. And so I opened up my window and it was just like I finished doing my laundry, so I was hanging it up to dry outside. And I'm like hanging up, and all of a sudden it's like, dude, I swear to God, I was in like an Aliens movie. Yeah. Where it's like the face hugger like leaps at a person. Geez. So this spider leaped. I don't even know where it came from. It leaped into my window and it didn't come onto me, but it like leaped into my apartment. And I just had enough reaction time to like follow it to where it was landing. And it was like, you know, it was like a deer in the headlights moment where it's like, I'm so paralyzed with fear. Yeah. All I can do is watch what's happening. And the spider like lands on my floor. Yeah. Pauses for like 3 seconds and is like, just like runs into my apartment. And I freaked out, man. Dude, I literally called up my friend. I was like, dude, the biggest spider I've ever seen in my life just came into my apartment. Man. Like, I'm not sleeping here tonight. Oh, man. So, like, I went and hung out with my friend for like 4 hours. Yeah. Like, I eventually came back to my apartment at like 3 or 4 a.m. and like, made sure that the spider wasn't in my bedroom. Yeah. And then after I made sure, I just immediately closed the sliding door. Yeah. I never found that spider, and it really freaks me out to this day. Terrifying, dude, it was like the scariest moment in my life. Like I've been shot at. Yeah. And that was more terrifying than being shot at. Man. Like, oh my God. Yeah, dude. Oh. I feel like you should write a horror manga now about that. Dude, I need to start writing about the grotesque experience. Man. But yeah, so those of you who live in Tokyo, you're welcome for letting you know that there are giant spiders here. Yeah. I've never seen one, but I'm glad you saw them, so I don't have to. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe they're just in otaku. Who knows? Maybe they're just in the crap hole that you used to live in. Who knows? I don't know. But this has been very great, man. I've been captivated by your stories. These, I just got to tell people. So the reason why we started this podcast, right, is because back when we were friends, now we're just business partners. We're not friends anymore. No, I mean, it's everything is transactional, man. It's like, I charge 4,000 yen an hour for Arthur to talk to me. And you know what? It's totally worth every penny.
But yeah, so you would come to my house after work or something, just hang out, whatever.
Yeah.
And this is when you're still single,
Yeah.
and didn't have a kid. And you'd come to my house, and we would just shoot the shit, just talk about life, and
Yeah.
you would tell these stories. And I just remember Natsumi would be just captivated listening to your stories, and I thought, you're such a good storyteller. And I liked hearing your stories too.
Yeah.
Let's make a podcast where we can hear more of Austin's stories.
And now we have 11.5 thousand people who agree.
Listen to your stories. It's great.
It's not just my stories. I mean,
but there's a reason your name comes first.
Well, I just pushed for that. Let's be honest here. Because you were trying to push the Arthur and Austin show, and I'm just like, it rolls off the tongue better.
I wanted to put Austin first because you were going to be talking, and then in our first episode, I accidentally said the Arthur and Austin show. And then someone in the comments said that it actually sounds better that way.
I remember I was just like, I want to delete that comment right there.
Yeah, man. All right, man, it was good talking to you. I'll see you next time.